Hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. So today is the ninth day. I had to check the date because I don't know what day it is half the time. Ninth day of our series. Just got a few more. Actually, today starts kind of a new trend. So far, all the videos that I've done on this series of test prep have been like topics. The the video starting today is actually going to start a timeline. So the topics before, some of the big highlights were like the multiple choice hacks and just like some free resources out there that are like really good that you can use to study with, and just cool little tips and tricks kind of stuff. Today starts what to do starting the week before the test. So 1 week before the test, what should you be doing? What are some things that you can do to really maximize how well you do on the upcoming test? All right, so this is assuming that you're watching this and or planning to implement this a week before the test. So if your test is tomorrow, I'm actually going to do another video that's going to come out tomorrow. So let's say your test is on Monday. The next video I'm doing is what to do 2 days. Well, I guess it would be Tuesday then, because the next video is going to be what to do 2 days before the test, and then one day, and then the morning of, and that sort of thing. Like a whole timeline of exactly what to do to really maximize your score to reduce anxiety. One, so I'm going to put in here. You want to de-stress. You want to de-stress. Oh, cannot spell. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I always make a typo at some point because spelling is not my thing. I just rely way too heavily on spell check. So you want to de-stress. You want to have fun. Have fun with it. I mean, you want to work hard. You want to be diligent. You want to be disciplined and all those awesome things. But if you're not enjoying it, it's not going to last. You're just going to be fighting your will. And it lasts for a season to do things like that. But, and even for a long period of time, if you were to do that, it's just not going to pan out really. It's not sustainable. It's not very sustainable. It's a battle. But if you can have fun with it, if you can enjoy it, if you can at least pretend really hard like you're enjoying the study and getting ready for a test and things like that, even if you'll never use this math stuff in your life and you're convinced it's totally pointless, and in a lot of ways I agree with you. But just the discipline of doing well on something, leading up to it, and those sorts of things. Those are the overarching skills are helpful. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the bulk of what I want to talk about actually has to do with the practice. So a week before the test, you still have plenty of time to practice. So I broke down all of the topics in algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and we're just going to kind of go over them really briefly here, and just kind of take a look at each of these guys here. So you want to practice the biggest topics. The focus here is study smarter, not harder. I mean, it's good to study hard too, I guess, but studying smarter is better than just studying harder, doing all the things, and not really thinking about what to really focus on. So with algebra, there's pretty much two things, and I'll zoom out a little bit here. There's really like three, I guess, but for algebra, you want to simplify and solve, and you want to graph. And then of course there's arithmetic and geometric sequences, which is just kind of looking for patterns. So if you've been on that topic at some point in your algebra career and you feel like it's hard, then you want to practice it. I mean, that's kind of the general rule here, is that if you feel like there's some improvement that can be made, then that's really where you want to focus as well. But these are like the major overarching themes. So you want to know how to simplify and solve a lot of different things in algebra. equations, inequalities, systems of equations, and exponents to some degree. Exponents you kind of dip into a little bit. You're not expected to know too much just yet. You really dive in deep with exponents in Algebra 2. Spoiler. And then graphing, you want to know how to graph lines, obviously. Just all the lines, everything from vertical to horizontal and everything in between. Inequalities, parabolas, absolute value, piecewise functions, exponents. Again, not to quite the extent as Algebra 2, but you need to know them a little bit. And then your sequences and series, which is just kind of looking for patterns. So study those topics. If you are in Algebra 1, you need to study those topics the most. There's a couple like side topics, but basically practice solving things, simplifying things. I mean, basically, if you're solving an equation and it's not a basic like 1 or 2 step equation, if it's more than 2 steps, there's probably going to be some simplifying as well. So really, if you just practice solving, you'll have to simplify as well. So probably just focus more on solving than simplifying because it kind of encompasses that. But then graphing, you want to practice your graphing as well. And you can look at some of the other videos that I have on some really good websites for practices with the answers included, like whole courses, interactive stuff. Like there's just a ton of really good free content out there. But yes, that's what you want to do for algebra. Let's go on to geometry. Here's geometry. There's a little bit more topics in geometry than in algebra. Different enough to where I probably need to mention them. But transformations, it's a big deal. It can get pretty nitty and gritty. In geometry honors, I know especially we really had to dive in deep with transformations. There's 2 actually different ways to illustrate transformations, and we had to know both methods. I had to teach both methods, I should say. So that one can get kind of tricky. But actually, that's not really one of the biggest ones. It's just one of the big topics of geometry. You will see it on the test, just not as much as, like, let's say trigonometry. Trigonometry is usually one of the biggest things that you'll see on your geometry EOC, just in general. Not crazy trig stuff, because you see trig in Algebra 2, and then, of course, in trigonometry, because it's called trigonometry, and in Precalc. So trig is kind of, it's the beginning of trigonometry. The worst it gets is, sine, cosine, tangent, and then law of sines, law of cosines. That's pretty much it for geometry, trig. Circles and constructions. So just know all the things about circles and constructions. Oh, I skipped congruence and similarity. Just basically triangle congruency. Other stuff too, but mostly triangles. And a lot of your proofs have to do with triangles as well. Now, I had some subtopics here on proofs. I did another video on this that hopefully I'll remember to put in the description below. But definitions, postulates, theorems, properties, and given. Those are the only 5 things that you can use for reasons. For your 2-column proofs, you'll likely have what's called drag and drop, where you have to drag the statements and reasons into their proper locations to complete a 2-column proof. So what you need to remember is there's only 5 things. Now, there's a lot of sub things, so that's where people can get really overwhelmed with proofs. But there's really only 5 things. It's either going to be a definition, a postulate, a theorem, which one did I miss? Property, and a given. Those are really going to be your only 5 things. And of course, the first 1, 2, maybe 3 things are the givens. You can pretty much list all your givens right away. If you were writing one yourself, which you don't have to do on the EOC. It's all drag and drop and multiple select and stuff like that. But I just figured I'd throw that in there. And then lastly, very important, area and perimeter, volume, surface area. That, along with trigonometry, those 2 are probably like the biggest things to study in geometry. I know because I kind of specialized in teaching geometry when I was a teacher. Not that I don't like these other classes. I just ended up doing a lot more teaching of geometry, so I know more about it. Algebra 2. If you're in Algebra 2, you really want to hone in on these guys. Complex numbers, know what they are, right? The square root of -1, know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them, know how to do powers of I. Factoring, you want to know all the factorings. You want to be able to do everything from like factoring out a common factor of 2 all the way to like completing the square and beyond. Which kind of brings me into dividing polynomials, because this is similar to factoring. You want to be able to do synthetic division, long division, possible roots, so like P over Q and that sort of thing, possible positive, possible negatives, all that kind of stuff. Exponents and logs, right? They're kind of two sides of the same coin, so to speak. Know how to go from one to the other, that sort of thing. Simplifying and solving advanced equations. So I say advanced because you have to know how to, simplify and solve regular equations in algebra, but they're more advanced in Algebra 2. You have to know how to do more things to solve them. You pretty much just solve with using PEMDAS to simplify first, and then SADMEP, the opposite of PEMDAS, to solve. So it's pretty much all the same stuff. It's just you have to do more. So as long as you follow PEMDAS and SADMEP, PEMDAS for simplifying, aka doing one thing to one side of the equation at a time, versus SADMEP, aka the opposite of PEMDAS, doing something to both sides of the equation, like subtracting a 2 on both sides of the equation. That's in a different category from, like if you said 5x minus 2x equals 4. You can subtract 5 and 2x, but the 4 is unaffected, right? So always keep that in mind. I have another video on that as well. Trig, right? I say trig again, and I didn't put advanced or anything. It's just more trig, harder stuff, more trig rules, that sort of thing. Transformations again, rational functions. With rational functions, you want to know how to basically graph them and find all the things. You want to find x-intercepts, y-intercept, vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptote, or slanted asymptote sometimes. And RDs, removable discontinuities, aka holes in the graph, things that cancel. So all the things for rational functions. And on to Precalc. So with Precalc, major things you want to study, complex numbers again, but just again, if you see complex numbers here in this list and you already saw them in Algebra 2, there's just more things. There's just more things to say about complex numbers and more things to do with them. It's just harder stuff. Polynomials, trigonometry, vectors, matrices. Vectors and matrices are new to Precalc. You don't really touch on them too much until Precalc. You might see them a little bit in Algebra 2, but series, conic sections, probability. You see conic sections all the way back in geometry, but you don't really hone in on them, I guess, too much. In geometry you do. I don't know. But, by the way, I'm pulling all of these major topics from my experience in teaching, but mostly from Khan Academy, actually. I just went to Khan Academy and pulled out the major topics and kind of put some of them in my own words and kind of consolidated a few of them. But yeah, I used Khan Academy a lot. I think they're awesome. I think they're not, the end all be all. You want to use all your resources, but yeah. And I'm actually going to end this with calculus. So if you're in Calc 2, Calc BC, et cetera, then, you have all your big stuff too. If you want me to break down all the major things you need to know in Calc 2, I mean, basically it's like integration, so that's fairly sure. Or Calc 3. If you want to know, put something down in the comments, ask me, I'll do it. I'll just respond and tell you what to do with Calc 2, like all the major things you need to study for Calc 2. Or if you have a question about pre-algebra, I don't go any lower than pre-algebra. Personally, I try to limit my specialty area. My specialty area doesn't go any lower than pre-algebra and no higher than Calc 3. That's where I stay. Even though I did just fine past Calc 3 when I was taking all my math classes, that's just a good range that I've found I like from pre-algebra to Calc 3. So if you have a question on pre-algebra or Calc 2 or Calc 3, just throw it in the comments and I will respond and tell you what are the major things you need to know to do well on the test, the final test for that class. But yeah, so that actually brings me to the end of that list. Now there's actually a couple more things, kind of minor, kind of major, depending on you. And this is more suggestions. I mean, all of these are suggestions, but it's kind of like take this with a grain of salt. And this looks different for every person, and every person does this differently, and success in these areas look different for different people. So that brings me to eating healthy, exercise, and building and maintaining routines. So eating healthy and exercise kind of go hand in hand. If you are wanting to, lose weight, then you can either do it by just eating healthy or just exercising, but really you should be doing both. Now that can look different for different people. If you're someone who normally eats a ton of junk food, then maybe for you eating healthy just means cutting back a little bit. I really don't believe in quote cold turkey. It works for some people. It's never worked for me really doing the whole cold turkey thing. Just quitting something altogether. Like right now, I'm kind of like switching from drinking like coffee to like more like smoothies, and like teas and stuff, but not too much caffeine. Kind of tapering off of the caffeine. I just I've always had like ADHD, and they're like people say that caffeine is supposed to help you with ADHD or something, but I don't know. I think it's mind over matter. That's why I go off on tangents. By the way, I do that a lot because I have a disorder. But, don't let your disorders define you. That's another side note for free. But anyway, so eating healthy, exercising, muy importante. I mean, this is the week leading up to the test. If anything, if you really like Oreos and chocolate milk and Lay's potato chips, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Pizza. I love all those things too. Don't get me wrong. I'm no saint. But I guess technically I am because it says in the Bible that Christians are saints. So technically, but you know what I mean. But eating healthy, exercising, that can look different for different people. So wherever you're at, you know where you're at, and you know where you're at now. And maybe you already eat really healthy and you exercise a lot. And if you do, awesome. You know what? Good on you. Good on you. But not everybody does. And so I'm speaking to the person right now watching this who could probably improve, which is pretty much everybody. But just think about like what you could do to eat a little healthier and increase whatever level of exercise you're doing now just a little bit. So if you're not exercising at all, that's fine. Maybe just try something like depending on where you're at, look up, sit-ups, push-ups, crunches, and or what one of the easiest things to do is like heel raises. The little heel raise where you like hold onto a wall and you just do like heel raises and it works out your calves. It's like pretty much anybody can do those. And you only need to do like 20 before you feel a burn if you're not like doing them all the time. So, I mean, something like that, like you can start with something really easy and just do like 20 of those a day, and just do something, if you're starting at zero. Now, if you're not starting at zero, then you know where you're at now. Just find one thing extra to do, whether that be a whole set of, lifting at the gym, whatever, I don't know. But I'm going to kind of end with that. I don't feel like I don't need to say anything else about that. Do something to eat a little healthier, exercise a little better. Or if you really think you can hold this out for a whole week, like try to do a fast, maybe like a juice fast, meaning like you only do like smoothies and stuff like that. Now, if you are going to do that, do your research, make sure you're getting all your nutrients, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, consider doing like a healthy fast or something for a week leading up to the test to really like cleanse and do some exercises. And then routines. So I actually put that one on there just because I was thinking like, and for me personally, I'm not a routines person, but I have over the years started to develop healthier routines, and it's really benefited me. And I'm like, wow, like I'm a really spontaneous person, like very spontaneous person. It's really hard for me to be consistent. I've just now gotten to where I put out these videos consistently, which is something that I need to be doing. And to be honest, I just don't because I'm just really spontaneous. I'm just the discipline isn't naturally there. But when you discipline yourself, even just something simple like do something every day consistently at the same time, whether it be like waking up at 7 a.m. and making your bed or something like, just pick something. Pick something and do that something, that good something every day, you know? So find something to do and just maintain that routine, like discipline yourself to have a routine. And it doesn't have to be like a full daily routine if you're not already doing a daily routine, but, have discipline. Um, you brush your teeth, take a shower, you do all those things. I'm assuming. But it's like you already have some routines. So add one or two more and don't stop, when your test comes around, keep going. Like keep adding more routines. The more you have routine and discipline, the better off you're going to be. And now, I mean, you don't want to have your whole day structured to where you don't have anything fun ever happen. Obviously, like I'll be the first to tell you, it's really fun to be spontaneous. You're just like, oh, hey, I'm going to go climb that tree over there. Like, it looks like a fun a fun tree to climb. Oh, so definitely have fun with it, but certain things are good to just have discipline with and really practice that. Um, just as a life skill. So, anyways, I'm done life coaching. Promise. This is the end. If this was helpful, throw a like down there. And if you want to see more videos like this and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't gotten you know what? I forgot to capitalize test. What a peasant I am. All right. So yeah, if you haven't gotten my free guide, The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them, go ahead and grab that. It's at my website, myersmathematics.com. And I just hope that it's really helpful. You can grab it. You just go there and just say like, hey, like I want this guide, and just tell me where to send it to, and I'll send it to you. Yeah, and it's just a simple PDF of just like the 5 things that really it narrows down to when you make a math mistake, and what to do to avoid those things. And now, I mean, disclaimer, it gets more general as you go along because there's a lot of different math classes, a lot of different mistakes, but all the mistakes boil down to 5 things, like kind of the root of why people miss math mistakes. So very intriguing, at least in my opinion. So go check it out. It's free. So yeah, hope that's helpful. And I will see you tomorrow in another episode. Later.